Untitled, Shelly here, and today it is time for your Friday Foundation Fix, where you can get your fix of foundation reviews in between Foundation Fests. Speaking of Foundation Fest, I think I'm going to start filming the next one this week, meaning in the next couple of weeks you should see it go up. That is where I do 5 foundation reviews 5 days in a row, but today we're going to do one more Friday Foundation Fix in the meantime, and I'm going to check out another drugstore new release. This one is from Wet n Wild. It is the Mega Cushion Foundation, and this comes in 8 different shades. You can get it retail $8.99. Of course, most drugstores have deals on Wet n Wild all the time. Let's take a look at some claims on this foundation. 8 different shades. It is SPF 15. It's a match made in makeup heaven. Liquid foundation in a cushion compact. Tap the cushion for blah 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 coverage. Come on, let's get to the claims now. Perfectly portable, airtight, no mess compact. Infused with coconut derivative. Luminous, lightweight, buildable formula, helps boost hydration, and contains SPF 15 for added protection. So those are some nice claims. I've got dry skin. I like the mention of hydration. The packaging, one thing that impressed me is that you have an expiration date clearly marked on the package. In my case, it expires in October of 2019, and considering that I'm filming this in January 2018, that's a good year and 10 months or so. And I like that it's on the outside of this package, but once you throw it away, it is also on this package. This is the actual compact that it comes in. Super cute if you're into super cute, and the expiration date is on the back. So I've got this in the lightest shade. It's 106A Light Ivory, and that made me a little bit nervous. I'm usually, in terms of drugstore foundations, I'm usually the lightest, and in a lot of lines, the lightest is not even light enough for me. I am not the palest of the pale, but I'm pretty pale. So the fact that the Photo Focus foundations go into several shades that are called fair made me a little nervous, because I am one of the fair shades in the Photo Focus foundation. The one thing I do like about the way they describe the shades is they all say whether they are neutral, cool, or warm. So in this case, this is a light neutral. And in my experience, I have 2 different Photo Focus shades. I've got this one. They are accurate. They do give you an accurate, the cools have a pink undertone, the warms have a yellow undertone, and the neutrals are just an even mix of both. I personally, when I go get my color IQ done, or when I do a test against, white paper, I am neutral with very slightly cool undertones in the winter and very slightly warm undertones in the summer. Meaning I can pretty much go neutral or slightly warm or slightly cool. I generally prefer slightly cool, or my second place favorite would be neutral. I do not like leaning warm. It just makes me feel like my liver is failing. Although a lot of people tell me that that's the shades that look best on me. Sephora always matches me warm. I don't like it, but such is life. So we're going to take a look at this foundation. It comes in a compact, and when you open the compact, you get a nice little spongy sponge, which I never use. And typical of these cushion foundations, this is a sealed sort of clickable door that keeps the product fresh underneath. And you always want to make sure when you close it that you are pressing that door closed so oxygen's not getting into your cushion foundation. I get this is a nice thing to be portable if you were going to carry this around in your purse, but after I do my powder and everything, I'm not really going to be touching up my liquid foundation on the go. But if you don't wear powder, I like the concept. What I don't like about cushion foundations is that there's so little product in here. So this comes with 0.52 fluid ounces of product for your $9 retail price. That's about half of a typical bottle of foundation. A typical foundation bottle is 1 fluid ounce. So really, if you're comparing this to a fluid ounce of product, you're paying $18 for this foundation. And that is really up there for the affordable drugstore pricing. It's pushing high end. If you look at how much product you get in the Too Faced Peach Perfect foundation, the Comfort Matte foundation, that squeezy tube makes it approximately $20 per fluid ounce. So you're pushing a Too Faced foundation price with something like this. However, you are paying for the convenience of having the portability and being able to travel with it easily, and that's worth something. Now, I have not seen Wet n Wild sell refills for the compact. Some higher end cushion foundations do allow you to just buy the cushion that you can put into your reusable contact. I would love to see that. That would be less waste. You know, you wouldn't be throwing the whole thing away every time. I would like to see that. I have not seen anything like that from Wet n Wild at this point, but that's what we got going on so far. 8 shades, not a terrifically great shade range. However, at the very least, they do explain their shades in an easy to shop for way, especially since through this packaging you cannot see what color you're actually getting. So I do commend them for being, you know, perfectionists in terms of labeling their shades and giving you an accurate idea of what you're getting into when you purchase this product. So let's take a look at some swatches and compare this foundation to some others in my collection. Let's do some swatches. First up is today's foundation, the Mega Cushion from Wet n Wild in the shade Light Ivory, the lightest shade. Second is from Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. This is in Shell Ivory, which is described as being fair neutral. Now, the light ivory in the cushion is described as being light neutral, and quite honestly, I think the cushion described as light might be a little bit lighter than what's described as fair in the Photo Focus. If not, they're pretty doggone equal. The third foundation is also from the Wet n Wild Photo Focus line. It is Rose Ivory, which is described as light cool. So I do think that even though this cushion foundation is described as light, it is pretty fair, at least in their line. Fourth up for comparison, I've got the Milani Conceal and Perfect in shade 00A. Fifth is the L'Oreal True Match Lumi in shade Neutral 1 to 2. And last up is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow in shade 201 Classic Ivory. Let's do this. I have already cleansed, moisturized, sunscreened my face. I have primed today with the Too Faced Hangover 3-in-1 RX priming and setting spray. It is a replenishing, hydrating kind of primer, and because winter is upon us and my dry skin is out of control, I went with that. And as usual, I'm going to go in on one side of my face with a brush. This is the Real Techniques foundation blending brush, which is really hard to get clean once you've used it. This is clean, I promise. And on the other side, my new favorite sponge. This is the EcoTools Total Perfecting Blender, I believe the name is. So we will see if there is a preference one way or the other. We are dealing with a cushion compact. I have this in the lightest shade 106A, which is light ivory. It's listed as light neutral. I am 43 years old. I have some sunspots that I want to cover up. I get fine lines around my mouth, crow's feet, on my forehead. I have enlarged pores around my cheeks and in the center of my forehead that I tend to have issues with, so I want to blur all of that. I've got a little bit of texture, especially on this side of my face. I want all of that blurred and smoothed, and obviously I'm a little bit of Casper the Friendly Ghost, so I'm pale, and we will see if this ends up being light enough. So these cushion compacts, they're great for travel portability. This one comes with a little poof. I usually do not use these, so I won't use it today. And you have this clickable sort of closure that you want to keep sealed at all times when you're not using the foundation, and inside you have a cushion that has the product. Now this has about half of the amount of product that a typical foundation bottle has, so keep that in mind. This is not cheap. Alrighty, let's do this. I have already cleansed, moisturized, and sunscreened my face. I have primed with the Too Faced Hangover RX 3-in-1 primer slash setting spray. It's a replenishing, hydrating kind of a primer, and since winter is upon us, I have super dry skin. Alright, let's do this. I have already cleansed, moisturized, sunscreened my face. I've primed with the Too Faced Hangover RX 3-in-1. This is a primer spray slash setting spray. It's a hydrating, replenishing formula. Winter is upon us. I've got very dry skin, and it's the worst this time of year. I'm 43 years old. old. I've got some fine lines, some sunspots to cover up, a little bit of texture on this side of my face. I have enlarged pores around the sides of my nose, and those are the things that I am looking to blur and hide and cover up, and they're also the things that foundations tend to settle in and accentuate. So we will see if this foundation accentuates any of the things that I am trying to hide. Now, because this is a cushion foundation, it's a little harder to use a brush, though typically I would do my reviews with a brush on one side of my face and a sponge on the other. I'm going to keep the brush handy. This is the Real Techniques, I think they call it the Blend and Blur foundation brush. I'll keep it handy just in case there is a reason to jump in and use it. I am not going to use the cute little poof that comes in the foundation. I tend to use my cushion foundations with a sponge. This is my new favorite sponge. I'm going to make it official. It's the EcoTools Total Perfecting Blender, and I love this sponge. My former favorite was the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. Still an awesome sponge, but this one, I've been just digging this flat edge up here. It's just really easy to get right up underneath the lash line with it. I am loving this sponge. They say this is luminous, lightweight, and buildable. Let's find out. Typically, I just, with a cushion foundation, take my sponge and bounce it right in, get the product, and go to town. So, picked up a good amount of product. I'm really liking the finish with the sponge, so I do not feel like I need to go in with a brush. I'm just going to stick with the sponge. First thoughts, I was a little bit nervous that this was going to be too dark for me because it is light and not fair, but I do not think that is a problem at all. I think once this settles in, it's going to be a beautiful shade match. The finish is really nice. They're not kidding about the luminous, but it's not like sweaty, dewy luminous. It's just a nice sort of healthy looking glow, I think. And you know me, I do not like a dewy finish, so for me to like something right off the bat that is claiming to be luminous is pretty doggone amazing. I would say we are at medium coverage right off the bat. I did a total of 9 pounces into the product with my sponge, and it seems just about average. I used up an entire Lancome cushion foundation, and I didn't use any more on my face than I did with that. Not that that's like a holy grail or anything, but it's just seems to be a typical experience for me and the amount of product I needed to get this coverage on my face. They say this is buildable. I don't really want to go too much more with it. I'm just going to add a little more product on these areas where I've got my sunspots and see if I can get just a little bit more coverage in those areas. So I'm just going to pounce one time over here. Oh yeah, it's building. One more time for this side. Oh yeah, this builds up beautifully. This is not yet settling into any lines, though I feel like it has the potential to, so I'm going to keep an eye on things. The texture looks very nice, but it's not blurring my pores at all. They're still all very visible. Now keep in mind, I did not use any kind of pore reducing primer like the Benefit Professional, something like that. Those products are things that most days I will press into my larger pores, and that will help do a really good job of minimizing pores, like right in between my eyebrows right here. So I don't like to do that when I'm doing a review because I want to see how the foundation does with those tasks, but I don't think this is a problem right out the gate. I think it will be fixable, and I think the coverage is really nice. I wouldn't say we can get all the way to full coverage, but this is a high medium coverage, I would say. You can build it up to that. Let me go put the rest of my face on. The time for check-in is 11:26. Let's call it 11:30, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, I am back. Everything blended on this foundation just fine. I had no trouble blending concealer in. I had no trouble blending product on top. I did set it very lightly with the Laura Geller Balance and Brighten in Porcelain, just because the foundation seemed to stay just tacky enough that I was afraid I wouldn't be able to blend on top of it. So I did set it very lightly with powder, and I had no trouble whatsoever. This does not seem to be oxidizing at all. The color seems to have stayed true. It does settle into lines over and over and over. I've been tapping them out like crazy. I'm hoping that at this point there's very little product left. It was settling into my smile lines, settling into my forehead lines, and very significantly into my deepest chin lines here, and a little bit into my Meredith Grey frown line at the corner of my mouth. I noticed it's my Meredith Grey. We have the same wrinkle there, and it's because we do this all the time. Yeah, don't do that. What can I say now? Too late. Got a wrinkle, got a wrinkle. So that is what's going on. I am liking the finish so far. Nothing has changed in terms of texture. Texture still looks nice and smooth. Pores are not being blurred, but they're not being accentuated. A little bit of settling into lines, and that's where we started out. On the rest of my face, I'm wearing the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette for my eyeshadow. My bronzer is... I did something different. I went and got the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer in the bronzer shade, not the light bronzer, because I have the light bronzer and it just pulls really orange and just warm on me and it looks yucky. I'm trying the regular bronzer shade. I still think it pulls a little bit warm on me, but not as bad as the light shade. I don't think it's going to beat out my Glam Bronze as my favorite, but I'm giving it a chance. I'm trying. My blush is Tarte in Exposed. I've got a little bit of the Hourglass Ambient Strobe Lighting and Incandescent as my highlights. And mascara today is the Total Temptation from Maybelline. I'm really digging it. And lip, I'm having a really indecisive lip day. I ended up settling on Rimmel Moisture Renew in the shade Let's Get Naked, and that is where we are starting out today. I did set the foundation with a little tiny bit, and this was just for aesthetic purposes, of the Cover FX Illuminating Setting Spray, because illuminating, I mean, if I'm gonna go dewy, might as well just do it all up. Although, the problem with that spray is when you overspray and it gets in your hair, you have glitter everywhere. I have glitter on my shirt. It's a glittery setting spray, and I'm trying to, it would be cute if it was cute, but it kind of just makes me look like I have dandruff or gray hair, or I don't know. I don't know. I really like the sprayer on that spray. I really like the end result, but I don't like the overspray problem that it has. But anyway, that is neither here nor there. Also, I have a new scarf. It's got Eevee all over it. It's my new Pokemon scarf. I'm very excited about that. I will be back in a few hours with a daylight check-in, and I'll come back at the end of the night and see how it all wore, tell you what I thought, give it a grade, and all that good stuff. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Hey guys, quick daylight check-in here. Well, I've still got some daylight. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon right now, so we are about the 5-hour mark, and color-wise, everything is looking good. I do not think we're having any oxidation going on right now. I did get a quick look up close, and I do think it's looking a little cakey. I didn't have much time to really look at all the details. Maybe you guys can see, maybe you can't, but that is where we're at right now. I will be back this evening with a final check-in. Good evening. It is 9:44 p.m. That puts us just past the 10-hour mark with this Wet n Wild Cushion Foundation. So let's take a look at how it is holding up. When I looked at it in the daylight check-in, I was thinking it was starting to look a little bit cakey, and now it's really just starting to break apart along any part of my face that moves. So it's breaking apart around my mouth, on my chin. On the areas where I have larger pores, it's separating, and every place else, like my under eye looks a little bit crepey, but that's more a function of my concealer than anything else. It did settle into lines quite regularly. It was pretty tough to prevent that from happening. But overall, it doesn't look bad. At a conversational distance, I saw myself in the mirror as I was leaving work about an hour ago, and I thought to myself, that really does not look bad. That looks pretty okay. Up close, you can tell that it's breaking apart. You can tell that my pores are now accentuated kind of in that pincushion style. It just looks like I have a whole bunch of holes in my face. But my cheeks still look really smooth, and my blush and highlight and contour is still there. The overall texture is pretty good. The level of comfort is fantastic. This is a very lightweight feeling foundation, and I would go so far as to say it's probably mildly hydrating. I don't feel dry at all, and at the 10-hour mark, in the freezing coldness of winter when I have had horrific dry skin, that is kind of amazing. So if I had to give the Wet n Wild Cushion foundation a grade, I'm going to go B-. It's slightly above average in comfort, in sort of the wearability. At a 10-hour mark, for it to look this respectable at a conversational distance, I think is pretty doggone good. It's not holy grail good. It's not a great shade selection. There's only 8 shades, so it might be tough to find a match. So it's not going to bump its way any higher than that, but I am going to go B- because overall, I feel like this was very comfortable. It does settle into lines. It stopped settling for the most part after I tapped it out a dozen times. If you can't tolerate that, then it would be a no-go, I would say, for aging skin. But in terms of texture, if that's your primary issue with your maturing skin, it is really nice at smoothing texture. Doesn't do a whole lot for pores, but I think I can use other products to help with that. I'm gonna go B-. I like this one. I do. This is a solid like. Is it worth, $18 a fluid ounce? Probably not. I don't think I would pay the equivalent of $18 a fluid ounce. That's really expensive, but that's where we're at. I'm going to give it a B-. We're going B-. I like it. We're just going to give it a solid like. There you have it. On dry skin, I'd say it is very good for dry skin. It's a slightly dewy finish. I'm not sure I would try this if I've got oily skin because it's a pretty luminous finish to begin with, and it is a hydrating formula. But dry skin, normal skin, I would say give it a go if you can find yourself a shade match. Thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. I would appreciate a thumbs up if you would like to see more foundation reviews. If you have suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. In the down bar, you will find a link to my Foundation Fest master list, which is a sortable, searchable spreadsheet of all of the foundations that I have reviewed on my channel. And you can check that out and go through, and I have the links to every foundation review and all the details on whether it was smoothing or blurring or drying or hydrating or shades, whether they matched me or not, yada, 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 yada. So go check that out if you have not seen it already. And thanks again. I appreciate your time, and I hope you guys all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.